By the way, do we have anyone from Studio 217 here?
Oh, that's me.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
nice, cool. Okay, yeah, I know we just rolled up on 5 o'clock, so I was just kind of checking if you're around. If you don't Evolve and Soul, if you don't have anything else specific for now, it was great talking to you. We're gonna do a quick interview with these folks.
Okay, thanks a lot, Justin. Yeah, like I said, I'll look forward to maybe coming back myself, definitely on Thursday, and if I can get a couple of my partners to come. If not, I'll make sure that they're available to come for maybe another meeting, maybe next week or so.
Sounds fantastic. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you.
Sure, appreciate it. Thanks.
Cool. Okay, so we got a weird setup here. This body double right here, that is my camera, and we're streaming to Twitch.
Oh.
And because this is not, our normal Thursday meetup, Twitch is where most of the people will be watching this. So we probably want to get positioned here so the camera can see us. If you want to maybe
follow, man.
over here.
All right.
Cool. If you can maybe kind of set up right next to me over here. Yeah. Valerie, do you mind just inching to your right just a little bit?
sorry. Yes.
No
hold
worries.
on.
No worries. I'm asking a lot. Cool. Eagle, sorry, maybe could you inch just to the right so we can see Cole a little more clearly? Other way? Yeah, perfect. Well, Cole, thank you so much for jumping in here with us. I'm really excited to learn more about your business and what you're doing. You want to just start by introducing yourself and your company?
Sure. So I am Cole Pritchard, and I am one of the co-founders of Studio 217. My partner is Karen Chang, and she actually had to work late today, so she wanted to be here, but she could. But yeah, so it's just a two-person studio. We got our start in college. We went to MICA in Baltimore, which is an art school, a fine art school. And so our thesis was a VR game, actually, and we started developing it on the Oculus DK1, actually. So a long time ago, with much different hardware. Basically, so our thesis game was called Mr. Mart, and we've been working on that ever since college as well. Well, we've stopped working on it recently. We've moved on to other things, but up until recently, that was our main game. It's a game where you play as a customer service agent at a really terrible grocery store. And it's so bad, all the customers are returning every item they've ever bought. So you need to take their items and return them. And the customers, they stay at your desk and they start to stress you out. And so you need to punch them to get rid of them.
That's hilarious. I'm curious. One of the questions I'm curious about, I'm always eager to talk to people who were developing back in the DK1 days because I think it gives you a unique perspective, right? And you being from art and design background, I'm curious, what's your take on the way that design language for VR has evolved and expanded from DK1 to now?
Oh man, I feel like it's still even growing now. Like back then, we have all these nice floating UIs and stuff, and all sorts of things that are in the space. But I feel like back then and now, there's still a lot of designers that I've seen, or that some of the bad VR games I see are the ones that well, maybe not bad. The ones I don't prefer are the ones that use controllers. Like back in the day, there was a lot of ones where you had an Xbox controller in your hand and you were walking around like that, and there was no in the space VR. But there was some I don't know if you ever played the game Dumpy Going Elephants.
No, I haven't.
That's one of the very first VR games I ever played. You play as an elephant, and your only control was you could move your head, and you had a trunk sticking out of your face, and that was your one mechanic, and you just slowly panned forward on this track while cop cars and stuff came at you, and you had to smash them away, and you basically just went on a rampage. And I really loved that game, and I still do, because it's just it's such a total use of the system in the best
Mm.
way that it could be. And so I think like
And-
moving towards what makes the mechanics, the design mechanics of VR unique is the biggest difference, because there's been a lot more like that, like physical space
Yeah.
interaction.
And so what's your current project?
So we're working on a few right now that we are talking to people about. So I can't say too much, but
Okay.
we're sort of working on like a more casual game, because Mr. Mart was very much like an action game. Like we started on it originally you used the Leap Motion VR, or the Leap Motion,
Okay.
if anyone's been familiar with that, like the hand tracker.
Yeah.
So it was very physical
Valve.
and stationary. Like you never walked around, because we were trying to avoid getting people motion sick. But yeah, and so
Is Leap Motion better? I'm sorry. Is Leap Motion
Yeah.
better than the integrated hand tracking?
From my experience, it's about the same. It has the same pitfalls. Like Leap Motion, my biggest, like we loved it when we first started, and it was really cool. But our biggest pain was they kept updating it and breaking our game, so we had to keep rebuilding it from the ground up, basically.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what happens with VR. I noticed.
Yeah. But I would say, from my experience, it's about the same, if not better, with like the built-in stuff, at least on the Oculus that I've experienced.
Right.
It still has the same pitfalls where it
Okay,
has to
sorry.
see like, yep. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, continue. I think that's what I wanted to know, if it was quality was better or not.
Yeah, it was pretty good, and it was a lot of fun to mess with, especially in the early days when there was no motion tracking. It was just hands. But it still has the same pitfalls where you have to like see the shape of the hand for it to recognize it as a hand. But it's gotten better at that, definitely. But yeah, so what we're working on now is working on a more casual game and another sort of fun, I guess, action puzzle game is what I would call it. But they're still like very early in development. We're just trying to find what we want to spend their next effort on, because both myself and my partner Karen have day jobs.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And so, in light of that, I mean, what's your business model here? Have you made an attempt to earn any revenue with past projects? Is that a big part of your consideration, or is this more for fun since you have financial support elsewhere?
So when we started, we were very much like we want to keep our artistic integrity intact and like not take any money from publishers that would make us have to like change our vision or whatever. But as we've learned more and like interacted more with the people in the industry, it seems like you sort of have to earn your way to getting to that level of control over your project if you want to actually do it for a living. Like you need support, you need like the reputation to be able to do that, because we see a lot of people talk where it's just like, I started out in like Civilization 2 and I spent, I did the work, and now I can pitch like 4 weird wild games to any publisher and have anything. So but
Right.
we've been talking. We were at the last convention ever, PAX 2020, PAX East in Boston this year, just before everything shut down. And we talked to, there was a meetup, like a summit thing for indie devs that was really informative, and they had lots of publishers there that you could meet with. And so we learned a lot from that. So we are now trying to hopefully get our next game published or supported in some way, and then like move on to that full time, because I think that's what we really want to do.
Cool. And so it sounds like you started out with a background, at least skill set wise, oriented more around art and design. Was that transition to engineering daunting? I mean, how did you navigate that?
Let's start away. So the major we picked, the major we were in, is called well, it's changed its name at least 5 or 6 times while we were in school and since after. But it was interactive art. So
Okay.
that covered basically everything from interactive fine arts, like interactive sculptures and robots and stuff like that, to video games. And so we had some programming training and like classes in Unity and that. And that I had a background in that before I went to school at Micah anyway. So it wasn't that hard for me. Karen had a little bit less of a background in coding, but she's great now. So it wasn't that hard because it was stuff I was already interested in, and the major is designed around that sort of like just interaction in general. So it's like interaction with games, interaction with spaces, interaction with artworks. So we don't have necessarily the I'm not a computer engineer by a long shot, but I can make fun stuff happen on the computer in Unity.
Gotcha. And so would you say that kind of when you're dreaming up these ideas early in the process, are you coming from the perspective of visuals and art and what can we produce artistically more so than kind of what functionality are we able to program?
I don't know. I mean, I think it sort of depends on the idea. Like we could have an idea where it's like, oh, what if we were in this space with like this amazing whatever, like disregarding hardware. But I feel like our main inspiration, well, one of the main inspiration for Mr. Mart was the limitation of the hardware forced us to think in a certain way about the game design. Like we wanted something that you could only play in VR, that you could only do, like you couldn't experience anywhere else. And so that led us to the hand tracker and the Oculus Rift and the game that we did, because the game you stand in one place because we knew a big limitation was motion sickness, so we designed it to where you stand in place and everything comes to you, so you don't have to worry about walking around. Like we tried, and so the limit of the hardware actually influenced us a lot and like restricted our vision, but like made us come up with fun solutions to that. So I think, I mean, a lot of it is knowing the limitations of the hardware, but it's really sort of a like what sort of, I think the mechanics are at the base of everything of our games, at least. It's like, what is a fun experience? Like what can we have? What can the fun interesting and fun interaction be?
Yeah. Thomas?
Yeah, I was just wondering about the motion thing. Isn't it true that walking around with thumbstick and even jumping and turning everything like this, is it becoming natural? Now it's like a regular feature to have walking on your left hand and turning on your right hand and also jumping and stuff. And to push it even further, Rec Room, everyone says like, don't do any games that require you like some jumping and like flying or whatever. But Rec Room, if you know, Rec Room made a stunt runner game in which you there are 4 people who like, it's like a Wipeout, Breakout, or something like a Ninja Warrior type of game where you just try to be fastest, right?
Oh man.
And it works brilliantly. Just the problem is that you need to kind of let your brain understand that this walking is not you walking. That's just in the game. So I think the problem is not the motion sickness itself, but that the part that one has to kind of get used to the movement, and then it's all fine from there. And after you're getting used to it, you can even, as I said, play those stunt runners where you kind of jump off the walls and fly and stuff. So I was wondering if there's any way of making the integration of new players easier, so that they would have a better chance of conquering this motion sickness. Because I feel that learning a good thing to want to learn, you know.
Well, in our new game, Vomit Simulator, there's lots of spinning, No, I mean, like that's the question that everyone in VR is trying to answer. I think, like, I haven't, like, as a company, we have not really delved into that yet. Like, because we both get motion sick. Like I'm more motion sick now than when I started developing in VR, which I don't know if it's related or if it's something else, but yeah, like people can absolutely get used to it, but I don't know the solution to like I notice in this game there's the tunnel vision, and that seems to help a little bit.
Yeah.
And the snapping, like I don't know if
Does
there's
this
like
make you sick? Does this make you sick in all space right now, or no?
not really actually. The tunnel vision is kind of good.
I think it used to make me sick, but it doesn't now. But the
I
like
think
some of the
that
other
the
things
thing
Thomas
is-
is.
I
Go
think I
ahead.
read about it that why you're being sick is that because your brain is saying, "Oh, look, you're not moving, but your eyes are moving." So probably you've eaten some like poisonous mushrooms, some trippy
Yeah.
mushrooms, and now it's time for you to vomit it up so that your trip will end sooner. And then so that's why you need to trick your brain, not trick your brain, but
Sure.
tell your brain that, hey, this is not me tripping on mushrooms. This is just me having a good time walking in the game. So it's just you understand to treat it as a game, not as a real experience. I think.
Sure.
But the app to make would be what has been made in the real world, like for people who are seasick or afraid of flights. Or, I mean, it would be to partner with psychologists and make the app to
Yep.
get people used to the motion sickness step by step. Here we go. That's an idea.
For sure. No, for
Yeah.
sure.
But
And people are doing
and
that.
are they?
Yeah, like I know Population One, which was a big title that just came out. They partnered with an expert from the U.S. Air Force in sickness, and they did an extensive research program to like dial in their movement system. But you know, jumping still makes me sick, and flying in Population One can still make me sick, even though I've been doing it for years. So there may be a limit to how much you can acclimatize. I like if I go out on a boat, like in the ocean, I get sick every time. That's just the kind of person I am. And so for someone like me, there may be a limit to how much I can reward my brain, but I hope it's not.
You know, I've
I'm
been
not
studying,
jumping and swinging, but
I've been studying neuroscience for over 12 years. I actually have a degree in neuroscience, and this
Oh, cool.
technology is really brain changing. You know, I've worked along with some brilliant scientists and medical professionals that are working on cures for Alzheimer's and other brain disorders. This particular technology is really changing our brain. So that feeling of being disoriented and dizziness is a way that your brain is actually adjusting to the environment, and in future generations of humans who have spent a lot of time in VR,
Be used
the
to it.
structure of our brain will be completely different. Literally.
Wow.
You think it's gonna take one generation, 2 generations? You think it's gonna be a quick thing?
I think it could happen probably in the next 1 or 2 generations for sure, depending on the intensity and the usage and how immersive the experiences are for the user. But definitely, yeah.
Whoa,
I
so
think
quick.
kids right now are totally okay with it.
Because
yeah,
to some,
kids,
to some
yeah,
degree,
for sure.
the brain doesn't recognize, depending on how much you're like, again, you really immerse your consciousness in the experience, the brain doesn't know the difference. People that still, are kind of like in VR and at the same time, talking to people in their so-called, in real life environment, it's different for them. But people that are really get into, super immersive experiences, even this, socializing in VR, it's literally changing the structure of our brain as we experience it.
Mm.
That's wild.
Absolutely.
How is it
Yeah, like
changing?
it kind of scares me
sorry.
the idea of there's two sides to it, because if a kid jumps in there at 7 or 8 years old and starts flying around in Population One, they may beat motion sickness. But what other kind of morphology? What kind of the brain is so flexible that what other changes are happening to that young brain? Kind of concerning to me. But Cole,
I think-
I'm curious. I ask this question a lot. Like, what other studios are making games that really inspire you right now?
I started Half-Life Alyx, which
Oh yeah.
is sort of a given in the VR world. That was a lot of fun, and that had a lot of really nice feeling VR mechanics, like the don't know if anyone's played it, but like the gravity glove where you can like
Yep.
grab things and chuck it. That felt really nice. In terms of Phasmophobia, I played that in VR a few times. That was scary, but also a lot
How
of
is
fun.
that? Yeah, I haven't played that yet.
In VR, I think it still needs a little bit of work, but
Gotcha.
it's definitely like a fun immersive experience, especially with the voice recognition as a mechanic in the game. That's something I haven't experienced before.
How does it work? How is it? Is it controlled? How do you control the game with the voice?
Oh, it's so basically, do you know the main like mechanics of the game at all?
No, I never heard of this game.
Okay, so basically it's a game where you're like in a team of paranormal investigators, like going into like a house or like a normal suburban house or like an abandoned school or something, and you like take like ghost hunting equipment like electromagnetic field readers and like special cameras and stuff, and you can call out to the ghost like just with your voice, like, "Is Deborah Woggs, are you here?" And the game
But can you
recognizes
see
what
like
you're saying.
anything, or do
Yeah,
you need to see
actually,
actual things in?
it's not really like controlling the game. It's more like the game responds to what you're saying in not
But you still
necessarily
need to have
predictable
some like
ways.
special cues. You can't just say whatever. It's not like just like blah 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 or like magic spell or whatever. You just have to see some actual words like that are recorded. You like
Well,
some.
it has words that it picks up on. Like if you say like "I'm scared," the game will recognize that, and
Oh, okay. So it's a bit
but it
smarter.
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't tell you that it recognizes those words. So you're not supposed to
So it
know
feels
that
more
saying "I'm
natural.
scared." Yeah,
Yeah, so it's not like you have to like repeat every word for word to be able to trigger something.
yeah,
Oh,
That's really
that's
cool.
cool.
yeah. So that's a really cool mechanic. Yeah.
What
Trying to
about
think of
in
what other-
terms of art style and asset creation pipeline? What's exciting to you right now, and what's the workflow that you guys default to in your studio?
Um, we both sort of do everything. So because we both have a visual art background, so a lot of us time it starts in sketchbook or drawing in Photoshop, just planning things out. But I've started learning Shadergraph, which I'm super excited about.
Cool.
I didn't like it because I didn't understand it for a while, but now that I know more about it, I've like started messing with it, and there's like a
It's
lot
a
of really
game
exciting
changer.
things. Yeah, a lot of really exciting things you can do with that. So I think
What's it called?
Shadergraph.
What is it?
It's like a node-based programming thing for developing custom shaders for Unity,
Oh.
and it's actually pretty. Well, I won't say straightforward, but it's I'd say it's pretty easy to pick up. Like it's once you sort of get a basic understanding of what's happening, it's really cool. You can do all sorts of things.
Like instead of writing code and seeing only the end result when you play, you just kind of have like these blocks, and you just use blocks and add them, and on the next block you see what's now the result of all the blocks that you've put. So you like have immediate result without having to build anything, without having to look in any of the code. You just kind of just more intuitive, and then you understand quicker the underlying concepts behind the math that's going on when you're seeing your math problem that you solve, what the outcome is exactly there. So it's just very visual. So it's very easy to get into it.
Yeah, it's great.
And have you guys thought about multiplayer at all?
Oh yeah, we actually we had a really fun concept for an asymmetrical multiplayer VR game. But then when we went to the summit and talked to publishers, they were all like, "There's no market for this because you need like you need a headset and you need a controller and you need like 3 controllers and 3 friends and stuff."
Yeah, yeah.
But that game is something that we were super excited about making, and we might come back to it like when we have more like clout in the industry,
Gotcha.
or if we find some angel investor who sees us and wants us to flourish and grow. But yeah, that we got it working too. We were planning on taking it to PAX, and we actually did show it at PAX, but it broke immediately.
Oh gosh. I
Uh,
know that feeling.
yeah, that was annoying. But yeah, so that was definitely something we were playing with scale. Like the VR player would have been huge, and the non-VR players were like tiny and like split screen. So we were having a lot of fun with that. Just like the different
Um,
feelings you can create with the VR system. Yeah.
have you ever? This reminds me of an interview we had a couple weeks ago in here with the creators of Help Yourself. Have you played that game?
I have not, but I
It's
might
like
have heard.
it's in some sense what you would expect from like an asymmetric multiplayer,
Yeah.
except you're playing with a past version of yourself. So you'll be the
Oh,
small person and go through the level, and then you respawn as the giant that's like helping your own avatar.
I
It's
think I
really
have
cool.
seen that,
It's really
or
cool.
maybe
So
I
it's
might be
like that.
confusing it with a multiplayer one, but that's really cool. I like that concept. Yeah.
I just forgot the name of the game. There was some very popular game which featured live actors, um, which also
Tempest?
had this function of playing with your own past. Like you do something, then go as a past version and just kind of instance yourself. But now I can't. I just forgot the name. If I remember the name, I'll tell you. But you can continue. I just kind of got stuck in my brain now. Because it's a very fun experience, but just continue. I'll remember it.
There's that live theater group that does it. What are they called again? I think they're called the Tempest. I can't remember what their experience is called. But you actually pay. You buy a ticket, and you have a show time,
Mhm.
and everyone's live in there. Um, it's supposed to be really neat. I can't. I have to look it up though.
Is that one where like the whole building is the play and you have to like wander around and find?
Yeah, I think that's
I've
the
heard
same
about that
thing.
or something similar to it. But yeah, that sort of stuff is really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool. What are you? What about hardware wise? Anything you're looking for in a new headset? Anything that you're, just on the edge of your seat waiting for?
Well, I was very excited for the Quest 2, and we actually have one, and it's great. But just the whole thing with about like the Facebook accounts
Yep.
is
Yep.
just really, it's making it less attractive as like a player, and it's also making it less attractive as a developer because there's so many people who are just like, I hate this, I'm never going to use it because they don't want to link their Facebook account to it.
Right.
So
It's
that,
amazing
But
how
just
well
with
it's
this,
still
but
doing,
yeah,
regardless. Like that
yeah,
just shows you like when a company comes out without all those issues,
yeah,
it's gonna sell like crazy.
absolutely.
but connecting to a Facebook account just kind of gives your virtual account more realness or like integrity. I don't know how to call it, but for example, here I was wondering what would you do if you just kind of go to any event and you can just kind of be like, oh, I'm a troll, yeah, I'm a troll.
Yeah,
You can get kicked
that
out,
does
right?
have
But yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's what's happening. But what's gonna stop you from like still doing it? Yeah, right. You're just gonna get kicked from
No,
one event,
totally.
but that's all. So I was just thinking like it's good for to be able to not to be able but to have to kind of connect yourself to Facebook just so you would understand that you have consequences, actual consequences for being a troll, because then everyone can come to your Facebook profile and see who you really are, and so I think it would defer people from doing what they wouldn't do normally in real life. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing to be if it's a good thing or not to be to treat this world as a real world. But I'm also the thing that with Facebook, it's just so easy to authenticate yourself. You just kind of open the game, authenticate yourself with Facebook, and that's all. Like it's really hard to enter your usernames, passwords, creating accounts in VR. So I think that's also a plus. I'm not sure. I don't think Facebook are such devils. Like I think it's just like I don't know. Like it's just a popular thing to say because like, everyone wants to be trendy, and Facebook is not trendy anymore. So they
What do
treat
you
them as
think,
the
Cole?
devil.
I mean, Facebook are the only ones who record your motion data, which is sort of strange, which I'm not super comfortable with. And I don't know. I mean, you can achieve the same blocking things with like IP bans and stuff like that, and people are always going to get in, like trolls and stuff. I think it's more like people are annoyed about having the choice taken away from them, and it's absolutely, I think,
Yeah.
more of an economic decision than something that will make players' lives easier. I mean, because they could just make something like like Steam or like an Oculus account like they already have, like just one account to play all the games on there.
Sure.
But at
So
the
I-
end of the day, people are going to go for what's easy for them. Like
Probably,
whatever
yeah.
is the best easy technology, that's what they'll go for. Because
Yeah,
it's
probably.
question of time as well, and people don't have so much time to check everything anymore. So they
Yeah,
will
we
go
value
for the
convenience
easiest.
over privacy.
Yeah.
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 And
I know a
Facebook
lot
is
of
that's what
people who-
Facebook's betting on.
I know a lot of
I think-
people who left Facebook and they went back just because it was easier to get back their connections. So
Sure.
I don't think they're about
Yeah.
to lose.
I think that privacy in these times is, the ideals and sentiments are it's kind of going away anyway. I mean, we think about everywhere you go, just about there's surveillance cameras on you, and I mean, maybe 20 years ago that wasn't the case. So I think as we become more comfortable with full disclosure and transparency in this era, it may just become, more of a new normal. And,
Yeah.
whether they're scanning your retina or your thumbprint, they have the ability to track your signature, your infrared signature wherever you go. There's already systems that are following us everywhere we go anyway. So I think to the degree that people, kind of suspend those aversions about privacy, it may, like Thomas said, it may be something that ultimately works better, to our advantage anyway.
The problem is the dynamic of power. I think. I mean, there's
Right.
more and more data is going to be collected in the world. There's no way to stop that, right? At some point, all
Right.
this information is going to be known by some computer somewhere. The question is, what's the power dynamic between the person that's collecting the data and the person whose data is being collected? And in the case of Facebook, they have such a wide gap in the amount of data they're collecting versus not only other companies but also the user. I think it puts people in an uncomfortable position. I think the other thing too is like incentive. So that I buy another iPhone. But when Facebook collects my data, their entire purpose is to influence my opinion about retail products. And so when you put this huge treasure trove of data into a business machine whose entire purpose is to influence its users, I think that's where you start to have issues. So I'm not necessarily concerned about privacy in general, but I am concerned about the wrong companies with the wrong incentives getting too much information.
That's very
I'd have
fair,
to say
yeah.
that I think the wrong incentives, not having an incentive is a wrong incentive. I think that's some of the data collection is going to be purposed for future projects that are not yet known, and I think it's and I will have to say about is Facebook evil? They're not evil. I feel like what is happening is but it's happening in 2020. And I know their rhetoric is that they don't want to be the arbiter of truth, but they try very carefully to ride this middle line of we
Yeah.
want all access to data, but we don't want to tell you what the truth is. But in that, you can lie, and governments can be toppled. So I'm really disappointed in them. I don't have any other apps on my phones. Obviously, I have an Oculus, so they do get my data. But I try to limit I have nothing my data isn't really worth anything to them anyways, but I really feel like it's a bad faith company.
Yeah, I agree.
And yeah, I have a lot to say about
But
this.
I mean, you could also argue that, like the way that markets should be regulated is just to assume that all corporations are bad faith.
True.
Or
because
acting,
that's
at least
like that's
acting
just
in their own.
yeah, that's just yeah, exactly. Acting in their own self-interest. They're
Best
being
interest.
rational corporations.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
to expect them to act differently is probably not going to be a successful approach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like a non-profit. It's not like a NGO like entity
Yeah.
for civil rights. That's not their role.
Well, I think most people tend to forget because
NGO.
everybody's on Facebook, but most people tend to forget that it is a private company, so
Yeah.
they do have the right to do whatever they want with its business. It's not a public
Well,
But
It's
on a side note, can I just say one thing that imagine how better the voice bots are gonna be, because like in the internet right now, all the information, that most of the, like, I don't know, like 90%, however, a percent of information is text based. So if just going forward. Not text, but just
Altspace is recording this conversation right now.
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. So they're the
Yeah,
evil
quality
guys.
control.
Yeah, if you joined the event, there was a little disclaimer at the bottom that says Microsoft is going to record this whole event.
Yeah, and if you don't want it, leave the event.
Yep.
But you know, I think
Just
we
don't
should give
join.
ourselves more credit as humans that, you know, we're also becoming smarter in these times. You know, this is something that, you know, we
true.
never experienced before. And Facebook, you know, a company like Facebook never existed before. So, you know, we're all learning at the same time, and we're learning to be smarter and to be aware of, like, the things that, you know, the concerns that people have about privacy and sovereignty and, you know, tyranny of governments or whatever. So I think that we just need to give ourselves more credit and know that, you know, as we go through the paces of all this, we'll evolve the technology along with technology.
Yeah. Might take 50 years, you know.
Or here's a
Like
question.
robots
it
by
may be
then.
100,
No, there's
maybe
people
a
that still
100
learning how to
years
use
in
the
like
telephone. People are
Yeah,
still
I
learning
mean,
how
it
to use
could-
remote control on
seriously.
a television.
Yeah.
So.
could be like 100
Here's a
years in a
question.
civil war. Like it could be a huge amount of difficulty before we come to a new equilibrium of a balance of power in the world that incorporates these technologies.
then it will be
Where
AI,
is-
and it's never gonna
where's-
stop.
Where's Twitter in, like, let's say 3 to 5 years? Just curious.
I think they're gonna
That's an
die
interesting question.
out.
I
Yeah.
do
They're gonna
too.
die out. If you look at one point, Twitter and Facebook, those companies were valued at the same amount at one point. In like 2012, they were literally had identical valuations. Now Facebook's worth what 100 to 500 times more, because Facebook has
billion
taken this
users.
approach of we're going to be uber capitalists. We're going to iterate to create better experiences for our customers and grow our company. Cool thing. We're going to basically treat it as a public utility, and we're going to do everything we can not to mess it up, which in other words means don't change it. So if you have that approach as a company, you're eventually going to die. Like I don't see how they could pivot into AR and VR.
And I think there's going to be a ton of Twitter companies. And I'll say this: like I own a ton of Twitter stock right now, but I don't think, as you said, I don't think that Twitter is going to be able to continue the power they have now. I think there'll be probably, you know, Twitter clones all over the world at some point.
I think so, probably.
Yeah.
I think Trump was probably peak Twitter. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna look
Yeah.
back and be like, that was
Yeah.
peak Twitter, because you know even
That is-
already now, even
It's like
in
a
the
meme
States
made for
already,
him.
The
there's, like-
Twitter is going to be
Yeah.
one of those new Twitters.
yeah, I mean, in the United States, there are some serious competitors now in the last few months are emerging, either that have different political leanings or different functionality.
Right.
It's starting to become more competitive, I think.
And that said, the same thing could happen to Facebook, you know, because I remember not too long ago that Facebook kind of killed MySpace, and MySpace was on, you know, on the way to doing the same thing that Facebook's doing.
Yep.
What
But
do you
the
think
difference
of?
was.
Oh,
Go ahead,
sorry. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, you know, there's only one difference, and it's Zuckerberg. You either have a guy at the top who's going to deploy the capital to continue to keep the lead, or not. It's a binary thing. You're either the technology leader or you're a follower. And if you have someone who's intent on being a leader, like Zuckerberg, it's a totally qualitatively different outcome than a company like Twitter, where they just want to, you know, do the most public good and maintain the status quo.
Do you think you'll have a Horizon against Allspace, or one is going to take over?
What do you think, Cole?
I'm sorry, I was tangled up in my cord. Could you repeat the question, please?
Do you think Horizon is going to take over, or is it going to be Horizon against Allspace, or how do you think it's going to work?
Horizon? I am unfamiliar with that.
Facebook Horizon?
Is that is that their equivalent, basically?
it's their new metaverse social platform.
Mm,
It's like
that's right.
very low fidelity, socially based, and they have their own suite of creative tools around it. So it's kind of like Rec Room. You can create experiences inside of it. Has its own avatar system. They're
Has it
basically
launched
have
yet?
like they've been in like a slow beta rollout for several months. I've been inside it a couple times. It's nothing special. It's just it's well executed.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, it's basically just like alt space. It's more oriented towards kids, I think.
Right.
But there's
Do you
room
think
for more
all
than one of
space will
those.
stay?
But
Yeah.
it's too bad. I think we have a rec room for. I think that the rec room is the one for kids. I think Facebook Spaces need to be more for boomers. Like that's the that's like there's gonna be like a bunch of like 40-year-old people who just want to play some games and be trendy like their kids. Like tell together, oh look, we're also in VR. We're just meeting here playing games. I think it should be more toward to that audience because
You're probably right.
yeah, I think so.
It does look like that, actually. The news does look like this a little bit.
I think when Facebook tries to be hip, they usually miss the mark. They're not really that company.
Yeah.
So if they try to be
No.
too cool, they usually end up being wrong.
Yeah, like with those messenger games, like those quick. I think this was a big bust.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to create those things when you're that size as a company. I mean, generally, like they have to buy stuff if they want to make innovations like that. They have to buy someone else's project because
Mhm.
if you have a big
Like
company like
Instagram.
that, yeah, exactly like Instagram. Like it's hard to have a creative atmosphere in a company that large that's able to produce really cutting edge stuff.
But that is the power that they have to be agile in the space that they're in because they have the cash to acquire
Yeah.
competitors or even those that they want to align with. So if they have a company that they feel they can't beat, they can acquire them like Instagram, or they have a company that they feel can complement what they do, they can acquire them.
The funny thing, since I've got VR and I'm meeting a lot of people in VR, the other day I was in a Zoom meeting and I found that it was like backward, like an old time already. So it feels so different to suddenly
Yeah.
be on the screen, and it feels like this was 20 years ago or something like
Yeah.
that.
I think people who enjoy Zoom meetings they haven't been in VR yet.
Yeah.
They
I was
haven't been
kind
on
of looking
internet
at
yet, I
them,
think.
Like this is their first.
It's
Yeah.
really strange.
Well, I think if they hadn't been on internet, that they'd hate Zoom because even logging into a Zoom meeting can be nightmare if you've never used the internet before.
Cole, I think I'm going to cut the stream now because I think we had a good chat. But is there anything you want the community to know before we do that? Anything that we can help you with or that we should go check out?
Go to our website, studio217games.com. You can follow us on Twitter. I think it's at
Studio 217 game.
Yep, studio217games.com. Our Twitter is at studio_217. And we're on Facebook as well. We have a Discord. I forget the if you just DM me or anything on that, we'll give you the link to the Discord. Where we're not as active as we'd like to be. But yeah, check out Mr. Mart. It's usually on sale for pretty cheap whenever there's a Steam sale. It's a lot of fun. If I do say so
Cole,
myself.
can I ask you to reply to the message that I sent you with that
Oh,
website
yeah.
address when you get a chance? Thanks.
See y'all later. Bye. Take care.
So yeah, we're currently, something I've been working on is developing an integration between our website and this VR space. So like if you go to our website right now, you'll all see your alt space usernames as being live in the space right now, which is cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, but we're working on kind of one more level to that, which is automatically sharing this kind of contact info with the people you're talking with, like a
That
business
would be
card.
handy. Yeah. Is there a way to view past messages? I'm sorry, this is my first
exactly
time.
what I
No,
was
that's the
thinking.
worst thing here.
Yeah, I got a message before and I didn't know. I guess Had to write it down.
And I couldn't remember how to take a screenshot. All right, I think I sent you the message.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I've offered it to Thomas and actually to Justin as well. I'm a brand identity consultant. I do brand personality, and I'm trying to get into the VR world. So I'm
Cool.
willing to give